Hey, welcome to the Empowered and Free podcast. My name is Erin Kimbrell, and I'm a counselor, certified life coach, breathwork coach, and small town mom of two. I know firsthand what it feels like to live with high functioning anxiety. For most of my life, I had so much mental mess, anxiety, people pleasing, perfectionism, overthinking, constant worrying, and never feeling good enough. On my decade-long journey to feeling better, I've learned how to take back my life from high-functioning anxiety and helped others to do the same through my coaching and breathwork programs. Now I want to share everything I know with you. This podcast will help you feel empowered over your high-functioning anxiety and free to finally live the life of your dreams. Now, grab a cup of coffee, get comfy, and dive into the episode. I'm Erin Kimbrell, and this is the Empowered and Free podcast. Hey. All right. Today we are talking all about how do you know when you have high functioning anxiety? So let's start with what high functioning anxiety even is in the first place. High functioning anxiety is really an all-encompassing, it's kind of a catch-all term. And it describes people who live with anxiety, but who function pretty well in life, right? High functioning anxiety, important to note that it is not a recognized mental health diagnosis, okay? Anxiety is, and there are multiple types of anxiety, but high functioning anxiety is not recognized as an official diagnosis. So it is this term that describes people who appear to be successful, to appear to be accomplished on the outside, and people think you have your life together. Maybe you do kind of have your life together, right? You're this typical type A personality who excels at life. On the inside, the problem is you feel different than that, right? You're secretly struggling. You feel near constant anxiety in your mind and your body, and that shows big time in your behaviors. So what do I mean by this? Let's break it down. The mind. In the mind, a lot of us who have high functioning anxiety have a really busy brain. You're always worrying, always overthinking. I don't even know. Sometimes I'm like, what does a normal amount of thinking actually look like? Okay. We're always over analyzing, really digging into things that we don't need to be digging into. Maybe in your mind, you're always planning. You're always making sure that everything's going to go according to plan, no surprises. All options are accounted for. And then lastly, in our mind, we always are waiting on something bad to happen. It's kind of that doom and gloom feeling of like, oh, things are going well. When is that bad thing going to happen? Okay. So that's what's going on in the mind. Let's talk about the body. In the body, when we have high functioning anxiety, we have a lot of the same feelings of regular anxiety. So you feel on edge. Maybe you're easily tired. Okay. And you're tired because you're constantly, like your mind is constantly going, thinking of all these ways that things can go wrong or things can go bad. You probably have trouble concentrating, focusing on one thing at a time. If you're anything like me, your body feels pretty irritable when I'm anxious. All right. We have tight muscles. Your shoulders are always kind of up at your ears, right? Your jaw is clenched a lot of the times. Maybe you have a racing heart. That's one of the big things I notice when I'm feeling anxious is my heart is just flying, especially if we have panic attacks, which we'll talk about that in another episode. You probably have a heavy chest. For me, it feels like I can't catch a deep breath. It feels like I have a weight on my chest when I'm anxious. And maybe you even have trouble sleeping. All right. So we have our mind and our body, some of the things that we feel when we are having anxiety. But let's go into the big one with high functioning anxiety and a lot of the difference, because this is in your behaviors. What are you actually doing in life? So I call high functioning anxiety, I call it regular anxiety with a fake smile. All right. What do I mean by that? You feel anxious, but you wear a mask. So people don't really know what's actually going on. You put out this false persona to the world. And I'm not hating because, again, I've been there, done that. I get it. But what I mean by that is you never really show your true feelings to anyone unless it's somebody that you are super close with and somebody you trust. And why is that? It's because we don't want people to know that we have problems. We want to keep that perfect, happy front going on so we don't share how we really feel. Here's a quick spoiler alert, friends. We all have issues. It reminds me of that song. You know that song? I've got issues. You've got them too. I'm not a singer. That was actually like not great, but you know what I'm talking about. We all have problems. We all have issues. But when we have high functioning anxiety, we don't want people to know. We kind of keep it hidden. So the way I want to break this down to you is by explaining what you see on the outside, what you show to other people, kind of that mask, that facade, versus how you really feel on the inside. So we're going to do a little inside outside kind of game to explain. All right. So let's first start with on the outside, how a lot of us with high functioning anxiety, we seem happy to help, eager to please. I'll do anything you need, right? Can you feel the fake smile coming through the podcast here? Because that's what I'm doing. Okay. On the inside, though, we feel really resentful. Do you ever give that fake smile and like, sure, I'll help. And then you shut the door and you're like, oh, why am I doing this? I don't want to help her. I don't have the time. We feel resentful. We feel frustrated and angry when we are always helping other people. All right. Next, on the outside, you might be that yes person. What do I mean by that? A yes person is someone who says yes all the time. When somebody says, hey, can you help me with this project? You're like, sure thing, even though it's not in your wheelhouse and nothing that you know how to do. Or maybe you say yes to volunteering, or you say yes to that committee, or yes, I'll come to that party and that event and I'll help you plan it all. All right. That's what I mean by a yes person, someone that always says yes, especially when you really mean no. And so on the inside, what that can mean is that you're really struggling with a lack of boundaries. You don't know kind of what is yours and what's theirs and how to set that boundary, how to lay it down and stick with it. Okay. I am all about boundaries. I'm like the boundaries queen. So we will definitely be doing lots of episodes if you're somebody who struggles with boundaries. This also means that you can't say no, right? You don't even know how to say that. So one of my favorite things to do, which I'll teach in some of the boundaries episodes, is how to say no nicely, how to say no in a firm and direct but kind way, because that was kind of like my little stepping stone for learning how to place boundaries down and not be a yes person. All right, next we're going to talk about my type A's. On the outside, my type A's look super organized, right? You are like the perfectly organized person. I get joked about at work because this is me. I am still like this. I love organization. The problem is when we run into on the inside, you're feeling like you're so stressed unless things are perfectly organized, right? When organization becomes a requirement because of the stress level that it gives you when things aren't perfectly organized. And here's the reason why. Okay. We're going to get a little bit deep into it. So just see if you can relate. Staying organized gives you a sense of control. It gives us that sense of control because things in our mind and things in our body are frantic, right? We just talked about what that feels like. We always feel like we're rushing, like things have to be perfect. And that sense of control is how we feel like that organization is a sense of control for us. And this really stems from, I hate to break it to you, friends, but it stems from a history of struggling with that, feeling out of control in many areas of your life. So you were trying to get control in any way you can. And again, I get it. I understand. Okay. Next, let's talk about my high achievers. So on the outside, my high achievers are always striving for the best. If you listen to episode number 1, where I shared how I beat my high functioning anxiety, I shared a lot of my story. And you would hear in there my constant striving to be the best. On the inside, what we feel when we're striving to be the best is that we're super self-critical. You can never do anything right. Nothing ever feels good enough to you. If you get second place, you're like, why didn't I get first place? And if you get first place, you even think, man, I could have done better on that. Even when you meet the goal, you don't celebrate it for long enough because you're on to the next. You don't even give yourself that satisfaction for just a moment to celebrate what you've done. So that self-critical piece can be a lot. All the pressure that you're putting on yourself, that's a lot to deal with all the time. And that's how you feel on the inside. Next, let's talk about when on the outside, we seem really happy, really energetic, but on the inside, we don't feel like that. We feel exhausted, overextended. And sometimes this can show when we maybe sleep too much, right? On the weekends, when we tend to kind of isolate ourselves, it's because we're putting on that facade that everything is good, I'm happy, life is wonderful, but we're not really truly feeling like that. And it's kind of like an act that we're trying to keep up. And that rolls right into the last one we're going to talk about here is on the outside, we appear like we have it all together. People probably even look at you and say, how do you do it all? I used to get that a lot. How do you do it all? You have it all together. And I just laugh like, seriously? That's what it looks like? Because on the inside, that appearance takes a lot of work, right? That appearance of having it all together really means that we're just constantly overthinking, worrying, planning, imagining, prepping for the worst case scenario, covering all of our bases. It's a lot. I'm exhausted even just thinking about the days when I used to be like an extreme level of that. Hey friend, if you're feeling seen by this episode and you're looking for a quick tool to get rid of anxiety in 3 minutes or less, check out my breathwork membership, Release, Relax, Breathe at heyerinkimbrell.com/breathe. I know how you feel. You're stressed with no end in sight. Everything feels like it's too much, and your anxiety is on level 10. Your mind goes a million miles a minute, constantly overthinking and worrying. You wish you could just crawl in bed and take a nap for an hour, a day, or maybe even a year. Friend, it is time to take a breather. Literally, breath work is the most powerful way to turn off your mind and let go of everything you've been carrying. Say goodbye to your stress, anxiety, and overwhelm in 3 minutes or less. The cool thing is breathwork is scientifically proven to quiet your busy brain. It's as close to an off switch for the brain as you can get, all right? And here's what happens when you start doing breathwork. Your mind calms down, your worries disappear, and that stress lifts right off your shoulders. Your nervous system chills out and you sink into deep relaxation. You feel like you just got out of a hot tub. And all of this happens with just 3 minutes of breath work. Not even kidding, it is mind-blowing. And the even better news is that you can try it for free for 7 days. Am I crazy? Maybe. Do I want you to try breathwork and feel the difference? Absolutely, I do. So go to heyerinkimbrell.com/breathe to check it out and read what other people have to say. Plus, I'm giving you 7 days free to even try it. You can cancel at any time, no questions asked, because that's how I roll. I trust your judgment, friend. Give yourself the gift of less stress and anxiety with Release, Relax, Breathe. Head to heyerinkimbrell.com/breathe to learn more and try it for free. So here's the truth about high functioning anxiety. And this is kind of why you've gotten away with it for so long. It's not completely debilitating, right? You can do all of your essential life tasks, like maybe you hold a job, or maybe you're a mom, right? Or maybe you're both. But that still affects you. The anxiety still affects you in very real ways because it limits you. High functioning anxiety controls your life. That's the truth, right? And again, I say this with love. I don't want you to feel guilt or shame about any of these things I'm talking about today because I'm sharing them because I get them. And sometimes I still find myself in these traps, right? High functioning anxiety really holds you back from your true potential, from really going after what you want, going after your goals or your dreams. And this is because you're scared. You're scared to mess up. You're scared to fail. So as a result, you don't even try, right? When my life was still ruled by high functioning anxiety, not only was I anxious pretty much 24/7, but there's no way I would have had the guts to be here speaking to you on this podcast. A podcast, being on social media, being seen, that is way outside of my comfort zone, friends. Like I am introvert, prefer to be like snuggled up in my blanket on the couch kind of girl. All right. I love people, but I also really love my quiet time and my space by myself. So this is tough for me, like putting myself out there. It's a lot. Okay. I never would have been able to do this if I was still struggling with high functioning anxiety. Another huge problem with high functioning anxiety is that it's unattainable long term. You can't do it forever. And mostly that's just because you're exhausted, right? You're burnt out. You're stressed out. You're riddled with anxiety and worry. And as a result, you're not showing up in your life in the way you want because of that. If you're anything like I was, you're overextended, you're stretched too thin because maybe you've agreed to too much, you've taken on too much, and you're just plain tired. And when we go through this for a while, we start to feel burnout. We want a permanent vacation. Anybody relate? Does that sound familiar? If so, you might be struggling with high functioning anxiety. Okay. I know a lot of this might sound like a giant bummer. And the last thing I want to do is leave you here from this episode feeling down. Okay. That's not the point. Today, I did want to bring some things to light that we don't really talk about a whole lot, right? We kind of keep it hidden in the shadows. We don't want people to see how we really feel. But that's what I wanted to do today with you is validate how you're feeling. Let you know that I get it. All of this is speaking from personal experience and the experience of my clients. So sometimes to be able to validate how we're feeling, we have to bring it to the light. We have to get into the nitty-gritty. We have to talk about the hard, the vulnerable things that we're really thinking and feeling, taking that mask off and just being yourself for a minute, saying, you know what? Yeah, this is really hard. Okay. The goal of my podcast is to help you feel empowered and free. So I really want to leave you today feeling uplifted, feeling empowered, and feeling encouraged. What I want you to hear after everything I shared today is that you don't have to continue to live this way forever. Okay? You don't have to have constant feelings of anxiety. You don't. So take a deep breath. Imagine if you felt lightness and ease and peace all the time. Imagine. This is possible. It was possible for me. It's been possible for my clients, and it's possible for you too. So that's what I want to leave you with today. Okay. All of this is possible to let go. So if you're struggling with high functioning anxiety, please reach out. Please don't continue to struggle in silence. Don't continue to wear the mask. There are so many ways that I can support you, that I can cheer you on. And whatever that means for you, I can help you find the next right step for you. Okay. Whether it's working with me, maybe on my group coaching program, maybe one-to-one, maybe even just in my breathwork membership. I'm here for you, friend. I promise. Okay. Thank you so much for listening today. I hope this left you with a little understanding and with some encouragement to move forward to the next step for you. Have a good one. Hey, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. You don't know how much it means to me. If you'd like more behind the scenes content, inspiration, and daily reminders that encourage and uplift you, follow me on Instagram at heyerinkimbrell and send me a DM to say hey. If any of the episodes have been super helpful for you, please consider leaving me a review on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you like to listen. It helps me so incredibly much, and it allows the podcast to be seen by other people who need it. If you want to learn more from me, head to heyerinkimbrell.com. That's where you'll find all my free resources, read the podcast show notes, and learn more information about my online coaching and breathwork programs that help you create the life you want. If you want to keep the conversation going from today's episode, join us in our exclusive podcast Facebook community, Empowered and Free Help for High Functioning Anxiety. I'm here for you, and I'm always cheering you on. I'll see you next time. I'm Erin Kimbrell, and this is the Empowered and Free podcast.